Jazz season starts in earnest today. Reaction of Media Day. Injuries all along the West. News stories out of two of the Western Conference teams as well. It's all coming up on today's edition of Tip Off. Boom, 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 boom. Actual NBA players and real humans that aren't just numbers to talk about today. Boom, 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 boom. But a baseball tip of the hat, both to the Oakland A's and the Baltimore Orioles for making the playoffs. Boom, 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 boom. Maybe really to the A's for keeping Moneyball alive. Boom, boom, boom. How is everybody? There are actually, we won't talk about it, but there's some interesting things going on in baseball. I find, despite the fact that I played in college, that at this point I follow the Giants and not much else. Been picking up on some of the late stuff here in October, and there's certainly some storylines, and it also looks as though all of us certainly should have gone out to see Mike Trout when he was with the Salt Lake Bees earlier this year. That is for certain. All right, let's get to it. Media Day was great fun. There's huge, 2 long podcasts that are available for you, the interviews. I hope that you enjoy those. It was great to catch up. I would say the most interesting one of all is Damari Carroll. We got kind of serious about life at the end. His brother passed when he was a kid, and I brought it up. I thought Marvin was interesting. I don't really know Marvin, but I got a great vibe on who he is and just kind of how he flows, and I thought that interview is probably worth a listen. What else? Mo's leadership kind of jumped out. Here, I'll just share some of the things that jumped out at me yesterday. The first interview of the day was probably the most important. It was Paul Millsap, appropriately. And, I asked him about the extension offer, and he just said he was grateful and flattered. And to some extent, what that does is the Jazz have made their statement to Paul. We're limited in what we can give you right now. But here's everything we've got that the league rules allow us to give you. And I think that sends a pretty large message to Paul in regards to, hey, you're really important to us. We want you to be a part of this. We're interested, we value you. So that if Favors starts and he doesn't, or he gets a few less minutes, or he has to shift positions this year, as much as that's obviously not what he probably wants, at least there's this kind of, the major concept is, hey, as an organization, we came to you and said, we care, you're important, we're willing to roll it out, and you chose to bypass it. But we made the commitment, rather than Paul going into a season where that offer's never made, and then Paul really feels as though he's being short-shifted the entire series, has a level of bitterness to him, and he doesn't really lead. So I think that there's a really big positive to watching how that takes place. And I think it's important to remember, and we'll see what Tyrone does this year. Tyrone last year really never wanted Cantor and Jefferson on the floor at the same time. And so in turn it became Cantor and Favors played together and Jefferson and Millsap played together. And it will be very curious to see how that goes. And I will probably continue to monitor who Favors minutes are with because, quite frankly, it's interesting to see who I think there's an argument he can play with either or both. I'm not sure that this argument is Derek or Paul, that it has to be that way. Or, we'll see. I think it's unlikely that you can pay all 4 of them at the end of the season. No reason why not to continue through with that kind of talent through this season. But there's a chance, I think, that as much as everybody seems to be kind of couching this as well, it's either Favors or Paul. I'm not sure I see that in the same fashion. I think there's a real chance those two can play together. It'll be interesting to see how much more they continue to play together. Randy Foyar and Marvin Williams jumped out at me. The concept that you've got guys that are established. They're not wowed by the setting. They're 6, 7, 8-year veterans, and it may be new. And Marvin was kind of cute about how there's he went to Kevin Murphy and like, this is the first time I've worn another uniform. It's all new to me. But those guys know who they are. If you listen to the Marvin Williams interview, which I think is interesting, I asked him about. I thought he could have done more in Atlanta, and he's just such a pro that he wasn't going to kind of walk down any negative path with Atlanta. He wasn't going to be critical of them, where I thought he could have easily said, yeah, I mean, I didn't get to do a lot. And He kind of made one cut, went and posted up as a shooter, and I just thought there was more stuff that he could have done, and yet he didn't. I thought they showed a level of maturity. Randy Foye, it's like, yeah, I'd much rather play the two than the one, but if I need to play the one, I'll play the one. I just thought I like guys at that stage. Some of the younger guys are coming in trying to prove themselves, and the Clippers are interesting because they're very similar in a lot of ways to the Jazz, but they've added all these guys on their last legs. The Grant Hill and Jamal's pretty far along, and Matt Barnes is pretty far along, though Barnes might not be as, but I think he's 11, 12 years. And so the question, they have a similar situation where they're just trying to win. Foy and Marvin are probably still trying to commit a little bit more, but our guys are probably more at the peak of their athleticism, where I think the guys the Clippers added are probably on the downside of that a little bit. Lamar Odom is the big one. Really, the Clippers' moves don't work unless Lamar Odom plays well. Mo Williams, kind of his leadership and his demand to lead and his interest in leading right out of the chute, his excitement that this is his team, he's the point guard, seems very palatable. We'll see how that works out, what kind of point guard he really is. It will be curious to watch that, whether he can, what this toughness that he and Randy Foye talk about and how they will show that, I think is going to be interesting to watch. But Mo, it jumped out at me how interested Mo is to leading this team right out of the chute. Al Jefferson was in as good a mood as I've ever seen him, and he looked good. He just had a shine to him. He was so excited and eager, and he's always been that. He's a very happy guy. He's always, he's a little bit of the class clown, but that was who. It's nice to see, and that's a good mix. I mean, you've got the seriousness of Paul, and you've got the happy guy in Al, and you've got some other, Mo, I think, is a little more in your face. I'll be curious to see how this all plays out together this season, and how those things play. But the interesting one on Al, I just thought was what a good mood he's in. His body looks great. He talked about how Kevin told him he's got to be better defensively. So the Jazz have laid it out to Al. He knows what he has to do. Free agent year, maybe he'll be able to do it, or maybe Al's just not capable of playing defense on that level. Favors, it was fun to chat with him. He's very warm. You don't probably hear that over the radio because he's just so quiet. But I thought what was interesting is he didn't take any vacation. He said, I'll do that next year. So that tells you a little bit of the mentality he's got coming in here. He knows this is his year. This is his time to establish himself. And I think the Jazz have to really let him unleash, frankly, so that he's not bitter. Darren's still mad to this day they sat behind Milt Palacio. And let Derek try to become the player that he wants to be. So those were really my takeaways. There's a lot about Cantor. I mean, he definitely looks different. I'm not sure I bought Matt Harpering's tweet about the fact that now he's too skinny. He looks pretty strong, and I do think he was just so stuck to the floor last year. I think he's got to find a way to get himself so he's got a little bit more vertical. Earl says he has some. On the floor, the kind of murmur is clear that Alec Burks is wowing people. Burks is really good in that setting of kind of the 5-on-5. They've been playing for 3 weeks, despite, I'm going to get my one in every day, by the way. One in every day for a while. Despite the continual discussion about the fact that the Jazz had no organized thing about guys coming together and playing, they've been together for 3 weeks. A group of them, Al came late, Derek came later. Not all of them, but a group of them playing for the last 3 weeks. And Burks has been the guy who's kind of wowed everyone. Good story by Mo Williams about how he brought him out for a second workout, and he came. Mo Williams seemed to be impressed by Burks' grind, as he called it, and effort, which is everything we want to hear. Burks is fabulous in those settings. It's a little more open floor. There's not as much defensive strategy. There's not game planning, and he really can go. And now he's got to find a way to implement that inside of a game, and hopefully this is it. Burks, I thought, looked bigger and stronger. He said he was eating better. It's just the maturity of both Burks and Cantor from what they were year 1 to year 2, and how they held themselves and who they are as people was just really, really obvious. Now, with all this said, Media Day is the easiest day of the year. They haven't lost a game yet. No one's taken their minutes. nothing's going wrong. If you're having a hard time on media day, you got problems. So, but everything was good. Everybody seemed to be in decent shape. We'll find out more today when we'll talk with them after practice. We'll have all that up for you. I will try to. By the way, so we'll have these podcasts in the morning. I'm going to try to do some previews around the NBA. I got to set up a schedule. Then the other thing I will try to do is post kind of a quick post practice report for you on the podcast as well. So those will be short. Those will be just some sound that I thought was interesting and just a collection of little things. I'll write up some stuff as well. Do more writing. I know not everybody can always take the time to listen to stuff. Would you rather have written blogs or would you rather have audio podcasts? Feel free to tell me. All right, some other news around the NBA. I thought there were a lot of injuries in the West. The most important one, kind of flying under the radar, is New Orleans Hornets' Eric Gordon's having knee problems again. He had surgery. He came out of the surgery, went to the Olympics, supposedly was fine, and was working out with coaches. Now he's having knee problems again. No one seems concerned by it, but this is now becoming really a reoccurring issue for him. And he is the cornerstone of New Orleans. I love the way they've built this team, and I love what New Orleans has put together with Austin Rivers and Anthony Davis and Ryan Anderson. It's just a perfect match. And Eric Gordon, but Gordon's the key to the whole thing, and that knee problem's got to be a little unnerving for them. Bone bruise on Andrew Bynum. He's out 3 weeks. Andrew Bogut sounds like it's very unlikely he'll be ready opening night. He obviously won't be ready for the Warriors preseason game on the 8th. The Warriors' big talk out of their camp yesterday was that they've turned this team over to Steph Curry. This is his team. Wow, without an extension and before he stayed healthy. I mean, the only thing I would say is just kind of when you compare where we are to some of the other things I read, I just, I understand everyone's got to sell media day. At least I didn't feel like we were selling stuff that didn't make sense. Chris Kaman, second practice, hurt his back, which has been an ongoing issue for him. That cannot be good for the Mavericks. And then Brandon Wright, who I think is the one guy in that Maverick roster I really feel like is on the verge of something more than what we know about him. He got hurt on his first practice as well. By the way, there's a game on Friday. The Celtics are going to Turkey, I think, and they'll play Friday. So we actually get some preseason basketball coming up here awfully soon. But that's the Kaman injury. Kaman has not stayed particularly healthy. I mean, he's not a very efficient player, but last year he played 47. The year before he played 32. The year before he was up to 76, but then 31 again. So, the fact that his body has an issue, and there's always been a little bit of a question about him in conditioning, that can't be great news. And frankly, when we're looking at this Western Conference I look at it as the top 3 and the next 6, and then we'll find out if the Warriors or the Hornets are ready to make a run into that group. But the top 3 are obviously the Spurs, the Lakers, and the Thunder. And then the Clippers, the Grizzlies, Denver, Dallas, the Jazz, and Minnesota are all knocking on the door, frankly, for anything between 4 and 9. And I don't think there's going to be it's hard for me to put a piece on it, but I mean, my guess would be 4 through 9 is going to be separated by 4 or 5 games at the most. Right? Like, I don't think any of them, I'm not sure anybody gets over 50 in that group. Somebody should get hot and get over 50. Maybe not. With those 3 top teams all being close to 60, that brings all of us down into the 40s. And so you suddenly lose Chris Kaman for a little while. We have injuries. That's also the question on, the Jazz having the 4 big guys. Some depth is nice because you're going to have to sneak through some things here. 2 stories we'll just keep an eye on. A lot of talk about Tyreek Evans and Blake Griffin have both gone to shooting doctors and improved their jumpers. I love that. That's like the new best shape of my life. Oh, my jumper's better. Like, we'll see. Tyreek talked about how every time he shoots now, it feels like does the same thing, which truthfully his didn't used to, and Blake feels like he's just compacted the motion more, but it's worth keeping an eye on. So Tyreek Evans and Blake say they've both improved their jumpers. We'll keep an eye on that. And then Damian Lillard has been announced as the franchise point guard. Wow. I mean, I think he's going to be Mike Conley good. I think he's going to be solid. Maybe he's going to be great. Maybe they're right. Maybe he's going to be totally great. There's a lot of things that worry me. 4-year senior playing against lesser opponents. But you're announcing, you don't have a backup. Ronnie Price with Elliott Williams out. Ronnie Price is their backup. Okay, so I guess they better announce them because they're rolling them out there for 35 minutes a night no matter what. But wow, that's a lot to put on a kid right away. A lot to put on a kid right away. All right, there's your. There's just so much NBA, and obviously we have huge stuff to talk about um, in regards to Utah, USC, and then Utah State, BYU. That's really going to be fun. And the trash talking before that one's getting up there, and the whole 2-for-1 and 1-for-1, and Utah State trying to hold BYU to the fire, trying to figure that if they don't schedule us, they're going to have a hard time scheduling, so we better hold out for 1-for-1s. And if they have to do 1-for-1s with Middle Tennessee State, then we'll get them. And Utah, BYU kind of holding strong. We don't need to go there. There's boom, 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 boom. I love it. All right. Hope everyone's having fun. Take a second to listen to those podcasts. It's better stuff than this. By the way, whoa, yeah. Today is the final day to get pre-sale Jazz tickets, and I will be tweeting out a link for you. You can get just pre-sale tickets before they go out in the public, and today's the day. I will tweet that out. I promise that will go out this morning. See ya.